Okay, being 7 o'clock, I call the Lisle Library District Board meeting for October 21st, 2020 to order. I'd like to make an announcement. The Lisle Library District recognizes Governor Pritzker's most recent executive order number 2020-59, which extends executive order number 2020-07 and the Government Emergency Administration Act number 100-06-40, which suspends certain requirements of the Open Meetings Act, allowing library trustees to participate remotely. All motions will require a roll call vote. So, roll call, please.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Here.
Thomas Duffy.
Here.
Thomas Hummel.
Here.
Karen Larson.
Here.
Jenny Norton.
She did.
Oh, did she say yes? Okay.
Here.
All right.
Liz Sullivan.
Here.
Emily Swistak.
Here.
All righty. Next item on the agenda is opportunity for visitors to speak. I see no one in the room. Did we get any emails or any comments? Next item on the agenda is assignments for reviewing monthly accounts payable. This month, Vice President Bartelli and Trustee Larson reviewed the September billings in October. Next month, myself and Trustee Sullivan will review the October billings in November. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Does any trustee wish to remove any or pull any of the agenda items, or with that, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
This is Jenny Norton. I make a motion to approve the consent agenda for tonight's meeting.
Trustee Duffy, I second.
Okay. Discussion. Actually, the only question I have, and it's maybe not a big thing because it does show it throughout the minutes for the October 13th and 14th minutes for the 14th meetings, but where it says also present, it has all the architects. Should we maybe put the times they were in the room up above where it says also present? I know it kind of alludes to it throughout the minutes though.
Yeah, because it tells the schedule.
Yeah. So not a big deal. I mean, it's up to board members. Are you okay how the minutes are, or do you want to amend them at all?
I would amend it to what you're saying, President Hummel.
Okay. Does somebody want to make an amended motion?
Can I get clarity? Oh, wait, we're going to discuss it after you make the amendment motion. Never mind.
We have a second to amend, or for a motion to amend. Do I have a second to amend?
Make a second, Trustee Bartelli, second that to amend the minutes.
All right, discussion. Trustee Smith.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't following that completely what the amendment was. So if Trustee Duffy could go over that again so that I'm clear on it, that would be great. Thanks.
So as President Hummel kind of brought up, the minutes just state that here were the architects and firms that were present during the meeting. However, they were only present for a period of time. So we want to indicate what time they were present during that meeting. So we have to break out, they were there from 6 to 7, 7 to 8, 8 to 9 kind of thing.
Okay, so currently it says what time they left the meeting. So really we just want to add what time they joined the meeting. Is that what I'm understanding? Because it already has what time they left the meeting. So I guess it's just then to add when they joined, correct?
Correct. Because if you read it that way, you would read it as they were all in the meeting together. However, they left at separate times. But we just want to indicate that they were not all here together. They came at specific times.
Okay.
All right. Any other discussion? No. All right, so then we'll vote for the amendment first, it's amendment, and then we'll vote for the motion again. So we first the amendment, if everybody agrees, and then that's amended, then the motion becomes amended. So roll call on the amendment.
Thomas Duffy.
Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli,
Aye.
Karen Larson,
Aye.
Jenny Norton,
Aye.
Liz Sullivan.
Aye.
Emily Swistek,
Aye.
Thomas Hummel,
Aye. Now we'll take a roll call for the motion as was amended now.
Jenny Norton,
Aye.
Thomas Duffy,
Aye.
Karen Larson,
Aye.
Liz Sullivan,
Aye.
Emily Swistek,
Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli,
Aye.
Thomas Hummel.
Aye. All right, motion passes. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is annual audit presentation. I will turn it over to the director first.
Okay, so tonight, you see in the presenter box, we have Michael Lavalier from Lauterbach and Aiden. He's going to present our annual audit report. He may share it
Yeah.
alongside the presentation as well.
Yeah, so can everyone hear me okay at home?
Mhm. Yes.
Okay. So before we get started, I have to start by thanking, Tatiana, Beth, Jackie, and the team. Obviously, things have been kind of crazy this year, and as fun as audits have a reputation, coming in, requesting 1 million invoices, deposits, questions is never easy while you're still trying to get your job done. So audit went very smooth this year, all things considered. Just another great audit in our belt. So I got to start by thanking the team for making my job easy on me. I'm going to start with the smaller of the two packets first, and then the formal audit, I'm going to go ahead and do a share screen for. So the smaller of the two packets is the management letters. Basically, in our audits, we issue these management letters, which don't have to be posted or shared with the public. It's strictly items that we feel should be addressed with the board directly. So the first of the management letter comments is the commingled cash that you guys will see. Without getting too much into it, commingled cash, the reason for this recommendation is strictly how things are being done in the accounting system. During last year's audit, this year's audit, we're very satisfied with the procedures in place, invoices, deposits, everything of that nature. The problem with the accounting is kind of, my boss likes to say the chicken crossed the road. Every year things have kind of been being done the same way in the accounting system. And small incremental changes, especially when we're talking about governmental fund level accounting, a lot of accounting systems aren't created for governmental accounting. And so we run into these issues where we're paying all the bills out of one account, but in the accounting system, it's making it look like certain accounts are going negative, when in reality, they're not. It's just how it looks in the system. This is something I experience with a lot of my other library clients as well. It's just, like I said, accounting systems are not typically based for fund level accounting. So when everything is being paid out of the general fund, but then the expenses are coming out of, IMRF, FICA funds, it's strictly just in the accounting system, how it's looking, on face value, when in reality, the funds tie out in total, the bank balances are perfectly fine. So that's just why we gave this recommendation. So following page, number 2, is the outstanding check write-off policy. This is a very simple, management letter comment that we've given to half of our clients this year. There's been new rules regarding outstanding checks and how long they have to be turned over to the state, so on. So any clients that didn't have a formal policy in place, we issued this to. So I do want to point your attention to the bottom of the page, management response. You guys have already acted upon this, so props to the board. We don't frequently issue management letter comments, and they're satisfied before we even come out for the presentation. So that's wonderful on your part. The final one there, capital asset appraisal. I was speaking with Tatiana and Beth before the meeting. They let me know that in November, it sounds like an appraisal is looking to be done as well. And that's perfect. Again, same thing. It's great that you guys are acting on these management letters so quickly. I had another client 2 years ago, we gave the same letter to. They got the appraisal done, and we were able to take that appraisal and turn it into kind of the capital asset detail for the library going forward. And it's especially great to get done before the renovation, so we kind of have a good base to build off of as the renovation starts to kick off as well. So that is all I have for the management letters. Before I jump into the audit here, I do want to say that I'm going to be doing a share screen. So if you guys have questions, I won't be able to see your hands. I will open up for questions when I'm done. And then of course, after tonight's meeting, if you guys have additional questions, feel free to go through Tatiana. We can get anything addressed for you. So at this point, Tatiana, I think you need to give me
Forgot.
permission. Great power managing the meeting.
Okay.
There you go. Okay. That's nice. It's all okay.
You can make it larger by moving the.
Is there a way for me to minimize this whole thing?
Can you help them out?
Am I able just to get this off?
He'll help you.
Yeah. I just, once I start zooming in, I don't want to. That's what it looks like, right? Just take up half. Okay.
Just make it larger so we can see it.
Well, yeah, that's fine. I could figure it out then. Okay, I wasn't sure if I was able to get rid of this stuff here. All right, there you go. Okay, so beginning of the audit, following the table of contents, we get to the independent auditor's report. An independent auditor's report is basically an auditor's letter stating that the audit has been completed and we've issued what we consider an unmodified audit opinion, which is the highest level of opinion that we can issue for an audit. Following the auditor's letter is our MD&A section, management discussion and analysis section. We like to tell board members, patrons, citizens, anyone who will listen, the management discussion analysis is a high-level overview of the fiscal year for the library. So if you're going to take time to review any part of the audit, the MD&A section is a great place to do that. It lays out the fiscal year for the library without the formality of, just the financial statements that we're going to see. So I'm not going to cover the MD&A section in detail. So following the MD&A, we get to our basic financial statements. And so I forget people here in person. If you guys want to meet me on page 14. So page 14 is our balance sheet for our governmental funds, our general, special reserve, and our non-major funds that we'll cover later on in the audit. So on this page here, we have our assets, our liabilities, and our ending fund balances for the governmental funds. If we go 2 more pages, my favorite page of the audit is our statement of revenue, expenditures, and change in fund balance for the year. So here we have the same governmental funds where we can see the revenues, expenses, and then the third line from the bottom is our net change in fund balance. So we can see here our general fund had an increase of 187,000, special reserve increase of 490, and our non-majors a net decrease of 560 in the year, which again, we'll look at that in detail together at the end of the audit. So here for the general fund, I'll just point out briefly as well, something that we typically look at as part of the audit is what's our ending fund balance compared to our annual expenditures. And so clearly we have a pretty healthy fund balance in our general fund. And I can see that the board is taking the correct steps to start transferring out of the general fund into our special reserve fund to start building up our special reserve fund balance in anticipation of the upcoming renovation and capital projects that are going to be taking place. And so again, that's a great first step. A lot of my clients that we're seeing these larger fund balances getting built up, especially in the general fund, we would advise them to start transferring out to special reserve, which is exactly what you guys are doing. So that's spot on there. And clearly with the transfer outs and other capital expenses in the year, we still have the slight increase in our general fund as well. So following the basic financial statements is our notes to the financial statements. We're not going to cover all of these in detail, but the one thing I'll mention is the notes to the financial statements are where information that is not required to be reported in the audit financials themselves is disclosed. So important information such as policies, accounting practices, library-specific items are disclosed in these notes to the financial statements. Again, in the government world of audit standards that are not required to be presented in the audit numbers themselves. So again, I'm just going to stop at a few of these here. So I'm going to stop at capital assets. And usually I do not cover this, but the reason I want to right now is because as we start working towards our renovation and a lot of expenses going to be coming down the road, this is where we're going to see the increases in our capital assets then. So right here, construction in progress, decrease, I think that was a bathroom renovation we did last year. And so again, we're not going to cover this thoroughly, but as we start building up the renovation, as the appraisal is done, this is where all of that information is going to play out then. So a lot of these numbers are going to be changed this time next year due to the appraisal basically getting us to actual numbers and a good starting point for all of our capital assets for the library. Following the notes to the financial statements, I'm actually going to direct this closer to the bottom, page 44. Page 44 are the non-major governmental funds that we saw at the beginning of the audit. So here we have our building maintenance, IMRF, social, and our working class. Again, assets, liabilities, with our following page showing the net change in fund balance for these. So as we saw before, the significant decrease in the overall, that's because we closed out the working cash fund to the general fund within the year. And so otherwise, we have healthy fund balances in our IMRF and Social Security fund, and we did choose to close out the working cash fund in the year as well. So that primary reason for our large decrease is due to the closing out of that working cash fund. And again, to touch base just briefly on fund balances. Obviously, our IMRF fund, we have annual expenditures about $150,000 for the year, with a fund balance of $250,000. So it's good that we're making efforts to kind of spend down that fund balance and get it to a more, we typically expect to see 6 to 12 months worth of operating expenditures within our fund balances then as well. And that is all I have for the presentation then. If I'm not making everyone at home dizzy doing all this, I apologize. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the share screen. Are there any questions or comments from anybody?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
I have a question. So just to confirm,
Okay.
we obviously did not deficit spend last year. We had a surplus in funds of about 50,000.
Correct. And so again, when we're talking about individual by fund, we did have that. And let's pull up one more time.
On what page?
So if we look at page 16, sorry for the people at home. One more time. All right, I'm sharing screen again for you guys. So third line from the bottom, page 16, we had a net total increase between all funds of 118,000. So, and if I could mention one more time, The fact that we're moving money out of our general to our special reserve is fantastic. The fact that we have large fund balances in our non-major governmental funds, that we are spending those down. So even though those had decreases in them, it's good that we're reducing some of those large significant fund balances in those non-major funds as well. So we had a slight overall increase in the year for all of our funds, but the money being moved between funds in the year were all exactly where we would expect them to see with funds in your all's position, especially with the upcoming renovation. Anybody else?
Any other trustees with a question, just wave your hand. Treasurer Norton.
Not a question, just a comment. I just want to say thank you for the presentation. Again, and I'm glad that you're pleased with the fiscal performance and accounting of the library again this past fiscal year. And with respect to the management letter comments, I'm glad to see that, in my opinion, those are benign comments. I mean, they're good comments, but they're not indicative of any serious deficiencies of any kind, and they're pretty, sort of within the normal range for most entities to have things like that. Of course, as an auditor, you always want to have something that you can recommend in terms of improvements. And so you're doing your due diligence, and that's great. And we take these comments to heart, but I'm glad to see that they are, rather benign and easily remedied.
Yeah, and again, to kind of piggyback on that, and not to be too nice because Tatiana and Beth are in the room, but to have a client that we issue management letter comments to act so quickly on them is outstanding. I mean, we have clients that we've given the same policy to 10 years in a row, and we'll give it to them as many years as we audit them. And so to have a client, take them seriously, move forward with them, to have a board and act on them as well, it just warms my heart as an auditor and as a taxpayer. So thank you guys.
Great.
Of course, after tonight, feel free to reach out with any questions as well. So,
Any other trustees?
Mhm.
All right.
Thank you, Michael.
yes, thank you guys
Thank
so
you very
much.
much.
For that out. Good luck with everything, Mark. Good luck. Yeah, you as well. All right, folks. Good luck with everything going on these days. We'll see you this time next year.
Thank you. We'll see you next year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty, then the next item on the agenda is unfinished business, facilities options, communication plan discussion. Director Weinstein, please.
Okay, so this was fun. So last month, I just want to recap. Last month, Vice President Bartelli and I met to discuss formulating a communication plan and how to best implement that. And then at the last board meeting, we asked the trustees send me 5 ideas about how to best communicate a plan for those ideas and what to include in a plan. And so the homework is included in the packet in the form of a report and a tiny graph about them regarding main topics that the board submitted to me. We also have Mark here from CCS to help aid us in the conversation. And if you want to take a look at that report, I just want to thank all the trustees for submitting their ideas. And also some of you are overachievers and provided more than 5 ideas, which is great. But you can see that there's a lot of overlap in your ideas, which is a good thing. So what I think we should discuss, or you should discuss, is determining which are the modes of communication, which do you think are most beneficial, which will have impact, which are most cost effective and make the best use of our time. And then also discuss certain areas of the library where you think we should be highlighting within the communication plan. Just for example, like having a bathroom on the services floor, something like that. And then lastly, I think a number of you mentioned financial factors as being important in the communications plan. And then, as I mentioned at the end of the report, staff are very comfortable in creating fact sheets or newsletters or mailings or online posts or even video elements. Staff can accomplish this, but I think also mentioning areas of the library, like I said, with the, where facility enhancements would make a difference in communicating this to the public and showing where there are some needs is important, like right sizing youth services department or the addition of family restrooms. So I will leave it up to the trustees to discuss what's been shared. Like I said, there's a lot of overlap, but where do we want to go with the communications plan? And do you think that some of these recommendations are what you'd like to see? And then Mark can chime in. I know he's got some ideas as well, unless you want to chime in now.
No, we can go to communication, I can chime in, if that's all right.
You want to chime in now, or you want to discuss?
Well, and I guess the one overarching thing I'll bring up, and I think a lot of you hit on it, so I did read, the different comments you had sent, and I did go back and actually read the community engagement presentation back from 2017 that the district had gone through. And one of the things that struck me is really getting across the idea that you're trying to accomplish the strategic plan goals, and really trying to solve some of the problems that the current building has, and communicating that this is the problem in the building, this is a solution, and this is why spending X dollars now to solve that solution is going to save money later on, is going to be important for your community here. And I think the trustees will have a good sense of how to get that message out. But focusing on, okay, there is an issue, it's been brought up over the past 5-6 years and really identified by your public in 2017. And here are the proposed solutions. I think focusing on that helps get that message across. So I can chime in more as it's going.
Somebody want to wave and start first? Waving. All right, I'll go first. I will. So just going off the main topics sheet that was provided. I mean, I pretty much agree with it. I mean, I think like the website, the newsletter, the social media are probably some of the best methods. I mean, there's other methods we can use too, but I agree those are the best methods. I agree with the fact sheet. I agree. I know like taxes and financials are going to be important. And how also I think we want to include the maintenance of the building for some of this for at least the next 10 years, is the plan at least. And then as far as like to expand technology, expand electrical access, address staff space, expand youth services and bathroom. I agree with like all that. But I think we should also wait till we have what we're going to do officially before we start communicating that. I would say, I mean, let's see what our design comes back. I mean, obviously we're going to tackle all these, but let's see what we got first. I would probably go at it. The only one probably need a little clarification on. I think I know what you're talking about. So timeline storyboard, is that kind of like to show the work in progress? Is that?
Yeah,
You guys
that would be my
okay. Something like that. Then I could probably. That's okay when we get to that point. Town hall meeting. I mean, I think we would probably want to have a presentation. I think this kind of came up in our interviews with the architect. I mean, we probably, once we have a design or a concept, what have you, we could probably do a presentation. I don't know if it would be town hall. Town hall might be a little, I mean, that might just be splitting hairs. I mean, it might be the same thing basically, but I mean, obviously it'd be like a board or a presentation. So, I mean, most of these I pretty much agree with. I think just the communication and then what we're going to communicate and what we're going to communicate is probably it's just the big thing there. So I don't know any other. You have
I just wanted to follow up on that. One thing just to kind of tackle these as they come up.
Yeah.
One comment you had made is timeline. I think in terms of when you have that board meeting or town hall or community engagement meeting or aspect within your board. And one of the things we could talk about with the architect is, do you do one at a very early stage in the concept phase to start getting some feedback, and that way you're kind of informing, let them start to go in a little bit, but start informing where these decisions need to be made to give the board some feedback from the public. So that when, and as decisions are rolling through, you kind of have it in your mind fresh from the public, hey, this is what we've heard. This is why we want to go down that path with the fiscal constraints that you want to go down the path with. And then recap at the end to say, okay, this is where that community engagement, and further board input has led us, and kind of summarize it at the end of concept. And that might give the board some support for trying to move a project forward beyond concept phase.
So this would be after the initial drawings?
We could work with the architect to see. I do think it helps people understand what's being talked about to have some sketches done. Might be some initial floor plans, very similar maybe in terms of quality and style to what we saw in the interviews, but maybe a little bit more informed. The architects get more informed about the building, the process, and really the key issues that need to be resolved. Have that down, and it can be part of a board meeting. Have that, community engagement. Maybe it goes out in the newsletter or something like that to come to the board meeting this date, or the main topic is the capital improvement project. Allow for some feedback and then go from there.
We have a special board meeting.
More special.
Yeah, but my only concern about doing that maybe a little early in the game is if we do it too early, then we might wind up where, because people are going to, so there's going to be some people that are going to want everything, and then boom, there goes the budget. Then now we got, then we have an issue. So I'd rather almost have at least like some type of like a hard concept, so we at least could kind of stay within our budget parameters, and then I don't mind like the community coming in then, and maybe if we have to tweak things like more design or what have you. I just don't want, because then, and then you also have people on the other end, they're going to say, well, we don't need this too. And then we're, so I mean, I think we want to kind of at least get the step one or step two, whatever.
Right.
And then I would, my opinion would then be to bring the community in. So, Liz shaking her head, Liz, or Trustee Sullivan, I'm sorry.
I loved everything that everybody submitted. The only note that I had was two-way communication as early as possible. Just in talking to people, there's a lot of ideas out there. I mean, even the ladies that I walk with 3 times a week, they've got ideas. And as soon as we start chatting, it's like it becomes a really interesting two-way communication. So some of it is them telling me stuff, and some of it is me kind of telling them and filling them in on just library stuff that they don't know. And I think it helps me understand them, and it also helps them understand things about the library so that they understand early in the process why we've made the conclusions we've made so far, up to this point. So I would like to start two-way communication as soon as possible, and especially since we're going to be dealing with COVID, because we can't have a big room of people. We're going to have to do something either via Zoom a couple of times, or tell people, yeah, we can do this, but we can only have 5 of you in the room. So I think we're going to have special challenges.
But we're on that path here. I know that Chris was just sitting in on probably a third webinar on creating a live stream experience for our public. So we're hopeful at the end of the month we should have something in place. And I'd like to test it out on maybe a committee meeting before we go forward with this. And we won't be having this particular community engagement, in the next couple of weeks. So that's on the docket for sure.
Mark did some of that.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to add there, and Trustee Sullivan, it doesn't necessarily solve the two-way communication part, which I do think is very important, but your comment about the feedback and the talking about how you're having to explain how you got to where you're at kind of spurred a thought in my head. I saw in one of the board recommendations or trustee recommendations with some videos. And something as simple as a short video that shows the excursion that a 4-year-old who's in the youth department needs to take to get down to the bathrooms. You could make it a fun little short video, story reels, and put it out on a website and or on Facebook or whatever else, and show that problem. Or when you enter the building that you're passing by a bifold table to see staff, it's there temporarily, and because of COVID, it's not a great situation. Some of those things can be kind of the videos, because I think sometimes videos and presentations speak 1,000 words, and it might help you in those conversations with people to say, hey, go watch this video and see what our youth services department has to go through. Just something to think about there.
Trustee Duffy.
I've kind of sat here and listened a little bit here. I actually think that, I hate to complicate it, but it's usually what I do, so I apologize, President Hummel. It's not just a communication plan to inform the public about the project. It's about informing them about the project at every stage that we're doing it as. And so, like, for example, right now, we should be talking about what we have been doing and what is the information we do have. And that should be an omni-channel approach. It shouldn't just be web-based or social media. It should be print. It should be video. You have to assume that you want to reach the largest portion of your audience versus parts of it. And then as we go through it, we adjust the information as it is updated. Because it's not just about, we have to walk the patron, the community, through the process as we go through it as well. So I know there was a little bit of talk about, well, how do we do town halls? Town halls would be a portion of that, but it's not the one part that we would do. So this is probably a much more complicated approach, but if you sit down and say, okay, what does phase one look like? Phase one is educating the public about what's the work that we've done and what phase are we in this project? What does this all mean? Because we've all heard new terms thrown at us, new concepts that we're all learning about. So clearly a resident also may not be fully aware of all this information. And then telling them what is the next step that's going to go on. So it's leveraging every single channel that we have. And it is not just a small amount of work. It is a lot of work. But if you do it right, you're going to get the right feedback, right, that you want from the community as to kind of what they want in the facility. But they're also going to understand it in a more deeper way.
Thank you. Any other trustee or treasurer Norton?
I just want to say I really agree with everything Trustee Duffy just said, and I think I just heard a new phrase myself, omni-channel. That's new. I'll have to Google that and figure out what that means, but that was good. So thank you for complicating things, Trustee Duffy. Support all of those complications.
Alrighty. Any other trustees? Trustee Sullivan.
The other thing that we were talking about briefly was being able to understand as a community of trustees, as a community of employees, and also as the community of library patrons and taxpayers, where we are in the project at any one time. And I'm just going to pick a tool that I'm familiar with. If we could use something like Microsoft Project, and we could have it so that, and I'm just going to pick CCS. I don't know if this is one of your responsibilities, Mark, but we're going to have all these different plans. We're going to have plans that the architects are on. We're going to have plans that are communication plans. We're going to have plans ultimately that the construction company is on. And there's going to be interdependencies. And if company A misses a deadline, it's going to automatically shoot out everybody else's deadlines. It would really be neat if we all had access to that tool, viewing only, so we couldn't really mess it up, but it kind of like would join all those separate plans together. And I don't know if Microsoft Project, where the library, Tatiana, could buy us a group license, now I'm talking beyond what I know, but if we could do something like that, that would be great.
Our staff, I don't know which one.
Well, I think I'm interpreting that as you'd like a schedule, and if there are some overlapping schedules where it's kind of a go-to place to see what's happening when, right? Is that what you're aiming for? Okay, so.
So I'll take it from there, I think. One of the terms that we use in our industry is dashboards. I'm sure everyone uses those in different industries. But basically, I think Trustee Sullivan's trying to say, it might not have to be in Microsoft projects, because then you're trying to learn a new software and figure out everything else. It's really trying to come up with some simple dashboards that you have constant access to, that we update, that provide up-to-date, accurate information about what's been completed, what's coming up, and what's on the horizon. And that is something that we definitely do. So in that, in that concept phase, we'd actually work to put together a master project schedule that would have all that information in there. Ahead of it, and I'm already starting it now, is really kind of putting in some of the pieces for a concept schedule, just to have that for discussions with your architect as we go and negotiate what that concept phase is. Because we want to make sure that they understand what their schedule is and you understand what you're getting from them, and have that discussion there. So already starting that, and I think we can work with staff to come up with what that dashboard needs to look like, and we can tweak it and we can make it what you want it to be. And I think that resolves around timeline being one, funding being can be another dashboard, and maybe even another dashboard that focuses on what aspects of this project are the biggest scope items. It's focusing on youth department, or we can kind of come up with a creative way of saying, we're really focusing on the youth department, or we are really focusing on universal design, and kind of put some highlights on that. That might help alleviate some of the concern there.
And is there any way that we could possibly structure it so that the public could have access as well?
Typically what we could do is we'd have these dashboards set up where we can maybe update them bi-weekly or monthly, however we see fit, and just have it on a page on the district's website. And that way we're not creating a new web page. You could have a link right on your front page of it saying, go here, and it's right there if that's what you want.
Just like St. Charles has something like that I was finding out where it goes through and it has like the dots, and you can see where the progress is and what's going on.
Exactly.
So it's kind of the dashboard, whatever.
Right. We could use that as a template. We could create our own, and those are easy to put together. And then once you have them put together, it's a little effort to do that, but it's just easy to just update it. Add some information.
Vice President Bartelli.
I love your idea, Mark, about the dashboards. I think it gives us and the residents a real-time status. We won't constantly be badgering staff. What's going on with communications? The residents will see it almost as it's happening. That's a great idea. I like all of the ideas, the main topics, the graphs that director put together. When the time is right, to take each one of these individually right now, I don't think is beneficial. But just wanted to add that as far as the town hall meeting, and I understand with the COVID situation that could and will be difficult. But in the 4 library visits that I made, every one of them indicated how beneficial a town hall meeting was, whether it was just one or several. So if there's some way, possibly that's sort of high on my list when the time comes, and if we can do it. We may not be able to manage it because of COVID, But anyway, dashboard, love it. Thank you.
Secretary Swistak.
I also really like the idea of the dashboard and having that updated and being a place where not only the board, but also the community can go to see where we're at. So I really like that idea. One of the things that I also think is really important is that we need to make sure that our taxpayers know, the how we're planning to fund this. I know that there's been some concern I've seen on social media about the amount of money that we're planning on spending potentially, and where that money is going to come from. And I think that that's something that we really need to get out there, is how we're planning on funding it, and making sure that we are transparent as far as that goes. To me, that's kind of a big priority at this point, as well.
Right.
Anyone else? Right, Director Weinstein, anything else, or Mark, anything else?
The only thing I'm not sure, and I don't want to speak for staff on what direction you're looking forward as part of this conversation, but the way I kind of broke out the information as I was reading it was two different parts and pieces. One was the channels to get it out, as Trustee Duffy said, the omni-channel. Way is a good way of summarizing that. But what I wrote down was really actually 5, and that's what people were asking for. Director Weinstein had asked for. 1, the website. 2, newsletter. 3, social media, whether that's Facebook or Twitter or whatever else that might be out there. 4 be signage, and that could be physical in the building or even just something at the property or whatever else. And 5 would be meetings, whether they're town hall, in person, or something. And the dashboards kind of fit into all of those, and we can make a way to make them work into that. So leave that one as its own thing. But 2 would be the information you want to get across. And not that you need to have answers for that today. So you have channels and information, the 2 key points I'm taking away. To start really thinking, unless staff needs it now, but start really thinking about what is the most important information first, because you don't want to put everything out there all at once, because no one's going to be able to read through it all and comprehend it all. It's trying to figure out, okay, what's most important now? And what I heard right now is, 1 would be funding, what we're thinking about in terms of funding and where this could come from. And I'm not sure what 2 might be, but maybe kind of prioritizing what that list is. And I don't know if that's something maybe staff works on, and then submits back to the board or vice versa. We can help with that.
Well, some of the trustees did supply some of that information. You can see, I mean, in the expand technology, expand electrical access, expand and YS bathroom, and then financial for sure is funding is number 1. But most trustees were focused more on modes of communication outside of what exactly to discuss. So the floor is open if someone wants to add to the list now, or maybe we can do another session of homework where you could supply me 5 ideas for the top 5 or key elements of the renovation you'd like to put. Let's say what would fit on a postcard, and not necessarily going to send out a postcard, but something that we could condense or something concise that we could put out in a short mode.
The trustees want more homework. Right. I mean, some though provided that though already, though, correct? You just want everybody to chime in?
I think it was 1 or 2. So.
So is everybody okay with providing additional, or what you would like to include? Or
Key elements
Key elements,
we want
yes.
to push out immediately, that, if we were to send out a postcard, these are the, chief ideas, chief reasons for conducting this renovation.
And just a recommendation, take it or leave it, but if you want to prioritize that with, top to bottom, with what you think your most important is to, all 5 ideas I'm sure are important, but most important to least of those 5, it'd probably be helpful.
And I can do the same thing I did with this, kind of modes and share that with you, so you can see all of your ideas in one spot.
So the 2 or so of you that have already done this, you just get to do it again, and then the rest of us could add to it
Yeah, they may have changed their minds, so,
or change your mind.
yeah, it's the meet again.
Everybody good?
Yep.
All righty, is that it then? We good with that topic? All right. So then moving along, next item on the agenda is committee reports. First one is Finance Committee. Treasurer Norton. Oh, sorry.
Bear with me if there's background noise. I'm going to try not to rush through, but there's the background noise. So we had a finance committee meeting most recently earlier this month on the 6th. We had 3 main topics of discussion. The first topic was to have a preliminary discussion on consideration of financial advisors. Because as we discussed, we do have an investment advisor, but that may not take us all the way in what we would need in terms of support for our capital project. So Director Weinstein explained what she had done in terms of coming up with some preliminary options for us. But ultimately, after that discussion, we determined that we were going to table reaching out to financial advisors. However, we did talk about what we would want in the near term is some support from a cash flow analysis perspective. So we are going to have Ehlers, who already has, as part of our relationship with them, done that in the past and has said that's part of, what is currently in our relationship with them for them to provide, that we're going to speak with them at a future committee meeting, which is being organized for next month, date still to be determined. The second main topic was an overview of the levy process. And again, the director led us in that discussion and brought up that we have a special reserve ordinance that we should at some point, not yet, but at some point as we move forward in the capital project discussions, we will want to make sure that that special reserve ordinance continues to align with our plans. That includes, having dollar amounts and categories that fit in with our plan. And then the third main topic was to go over committee members' ideas for ways that we could meaningfully, yet within reasonable time and cost bounds, make improvements to the library's financial reports. And the committee members, in no particular order, provided some thoughts, and they are all in varying stages of discussion and implementation. I focused on monthly financials and the way that you can sort of trace information to and from different reports. And the director did mention that a couple of those items have already been addressed and are incorporated in this month's reports. That's in her director's report for more information. And then Trustee Sullivan talked about annual budget and comparability between the budget and actuals for a period, as well as to the B&A. And so that's also reflected later in our packet in terms of a sample of what's being worked on there. And then thirdly, Trustee Duffy said, sort of zooming out and saying, hey, there's a lot more stakeholders than just financial people, finance and accounting people, and the board who may be interested in having an easier to understand version of our financial information, that's something he referred to as an executive summary. So something at a very high level, things that a lay person could understand to help everyone interested in the library better understand our finances. Those are the main topics, and I'm going back on mute. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions or comments for the Finance Committee? Okay, next item is, we have another Finance meeting coming up though.
We're going to work one out in
Okay.
probably mid to late November.
Mid to late November, probably another committee meeting for Finance. Next item is Personnel Policy Committee, Secretary Swistak.
We have our next meeting scheduled for Wednesday, November 11th at 7:00 p.m. So that will be before our next month's board meeting. So we will clearly have something to report at the next month's board meeting.
Director Weinstein, is that policy with with the legal review? I know it's, I think you addressed it in the director's report. Are you going to wait for to talk about it then, or you want to talk about it?
Well, the committee hasn't seen it, so
Okay.
we will be
But
discussing that.
But the lawyers reviewed it and stuff?
Sorry?
The lawyers reviewed it?
Yeah, we have a draft to take a look at.
Any questions or comments for the Personnel Policy Committee?
Could those of us that, I plan to just sit in on the personnel policy, could we also receive the packet?
Sure, you just report it to all the board members. Next, physical plant, Vice President Bartelli.
Well, the physical plant committee has not met due to our ongoing discussions with CCS. I will ask a couple of questions of Assistant Director McQuinlan on some of the issues on page 56. They're not issues, just questions.
You want to wait till you get to the Assistant Director's report?
That's just fine.
Okay. Any questions for comments for Physical Plant Committee? All righty. Next item on the agenda is staff reports, director's report. Do you have anything else to add to your?
Yeah, I'm not gonna go over the entire director's report, but I do want to make mention, I think we're all aware that Governor Pritzker has a recent proclamation, an extension of the emergency executive order. And I just want to relay that the library will continue to maintain all our safety protocols related to minimizing risk in the building in relation to COVID-19. Staff are still stationing the greeters desk. We have the PPE there available. Our hours remain modified for those at higher risk. We are continuing with the restroom cleaning, additional restroom cleaning during the day. Patron visits are continued to be limited to 1 hour at a time. And we are monitoring the number of people within the building. And we're going to maintain status quo right now, unless we see a need to dial it back. We are continuing curbside service. It has decreased over the past month or so, but I imagine it may, those requesting the service may increase now that we're seeing an uptick with COVID cases. So I just wanted to put that out there and so people understand that we aren't closing or anything like that, but if we need to, we can pivot. And then I just listed some of the things that we are highlighting and doing more of here at the library, including increasing our virtual programming. We are doing more outdoor programming, and we will have hotspots for checkout in the very near future. You will see a lot of promotion of that. We should have about 15 of them. We have seen some students come in or sit outside because they need access to Wi-Fi. So we've already, I mean, it's been a long research project for us to be able to secure 15 hotspots and make sure that, you know, all of every box is checked in terms of how we check those out to the public, but you'll see more on that very soon. The Youth Services Department is moving forward with a project. I don't know if you read the quarterly reports, but we're going to have like a story walk. That's again, I hate the term passive program, but that's what they're called. It's a program where we'll have some posts installed around the property. They're not going to be permanent, but it's going to be posts with some acrylic covered boxes where we'll have a couple pages of a book, and then you'll follow the posts around the property and be able to read a book on the outside. So I'm really excited about that project. I'm just giving you a taste of it now, but that's something on the horizon. I am in the midst of applying for FEMA funds for PPE. I've been on a couple of webinars just to see if we can acquire some funds for some of the PPE or some of the procedures we put in place for COVID. We'll see if the library will qualify. There's a lot of paperwork to get through to do that. I'm not sure where we buy for CARES Act funding, but I am looking at that. But I am in the middle of trying to get us some FEMA funds. And we've subscribed to some more online resources like Press Reader and Canopy. We had a lot of patrons requesting Canopy, just another resource to look at documentaries and educational and entertainment for those who are stuck at home. So there's more there, but I won't read it. But I just wanted to let everybody know that we are still open for business and we're being as safe as we possibly can. That's my report.
So the one thing I was going to say with your COVID-19 initiatives, I know you talk about continues to maintain or provide PPE. I would maybe start stocking up on that, like buying extra, because we're going to need it for a while. I mean, the best case
It's on
scenario.
point.
But I mean, I would, just in case this latest thing takes off and we almost go back into lockdown or it gets worse COVID in the winter. So in case there's shortages again, I would just stockpile the stuff. I mean, we're going to need it eventually. I don't think the stuff ever expires. If it does, we can always donate it away down the road, but I would start stockpiling the stuff.
We're on it.
All right, and then I was going to comment, I know the outdoor programming, I know that what has been successful, or once I've seen that on people's Facebook pages, they've live streamed it, and I was glad to see you're applying for the FEMA funds. And I don't know, you might want to try to reach out to the county. They've had a program, now they never talk about libraries, I know they reimburse park districts for money. I think municipalities, but I mean, even if it's not carved out specifically for libraries, you might want to see if we could get something there, at least in the next round. Any other trustees comment or question on the director's report? Oh, perfect. All righty. Then the next one is the assistant director's report. Matt, do you have anything else to add to that?
Just that, Derek Landscaping called me today, said they're gonna start working on the, detention wall where the stones are coming loose. And, it's gonna have a crew here tomorrow. It's supposed to rain kind of through the weekend, so there'll be no digging until it kind of gets several days where it's not gonna be raining. Margaret Kelly has a question.
Yep, Vice President Bartelli.
Yes, I just wanted to let everyone know, I'm sure you're aware anyway, Beth and I had a conversation when I came in to approve checks, that the French drain along the sidewalk here, you know, this is very minor repair, right, Beth, as far as cost wise, is it's not anything to do with the stormwater restrictors. That's one thing that I had asked, you know, as far as the cost. And then the retaining wall also in the south detention area, that's also a minor cost. We're not doing anything huge. I'm trying to keep in mind our big renovation that's coming, that we're not expending a lot of funds for these smaller projects. And also this, the industrial appraiser, I just wanted to get your opinion, Beth, on it's somewhat, unless it was mentioned earlier, it's preparation for the renovation to get all of these things, furnishings and materials referenced and coded and so on. I mean, it certainly helped when we start the renovation, correct?
The purpose of
Okay.
the purpose of appraisal is really for the auditors to be able to put a value on, you know, equipment, our library books, the DVDs, other equipment that we have in the building, even tables and chairs. So everything is bar coded then, and this person's, most of the barcodes are already in place, but part of it is just to check and make sure that they're there. And then they'll do a total and compare it to the last time the full appraisal was done.
Great, thanks.
And just to piggyback on that, the French drain project is just really to mitigate the icing we had on the sidewalks on the south end of the parking lot, on the east end of the parking lot, in the back portion by the dumpsters.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any other questions from any of the trustees for the assistant director's report? Seeing none, any questions or comments on any of the department quarterly reports?
Great job. Interesting.
All righty, the next
I
item.
just want to, wait, can I, sorry.
Apologize.
I just wanted to add that, you know, it always seems like the quarters go by so fast that we get these reports. I feel, but I really appreciate them, just because it gives us some more background information that we're not necessarily privy to. And I really appreciate reading what's been happening and what's coming. And I was really excited when I was reading Elizabeth's, about the new digital platforms, and when I was reading Will's about the things for youth services, and just, the things that they're continuing to do, during this time when we've had to, I know we keep using the word pivot, but we've had to pivot so much that they're really, working so hard to continue to deliver such excellent services to our community. And I'm just really impressed by all of that. And I really appreciated, Laura's when she said that, when she answered the question, what does technical services do? Because I know I've had that question, and I really liked that she said, okay, this is what we do, and tracking their daily tasks and seeing that too. And I really appreciated, that as well. So, and not to, omit Paul's, that was also good as well. But I really appreciate getting these reports and reading them.
Great.
Agree.
All righty, thank you. Next item is new business. First item is Lisle Library District vacant lots discussion. Director Weinstein, did you want to start, or do you want to go? All right, I'll go first. So I put this item on the agenda. Actually, I put it on there last month, but we were ready to talk about it. And I don't know if we'll still be ready to talk about it, but we'll talk about it now. So, so we have two vacant lots, as everybody knows. We have the one on the east of us on Front Street, and the one to the south of us here on Kingston. So I don't think anybody, in prior discussions, board discussions, I think everybody's okay with keeping the Kingston Avenue lot. I know there's been at least a little bit of an appetite about looking at the Front Street lot. I don't know, I know last month everybody wanted to at least hold on to see what like the architects came up with even on on their presentations, and obviously we still don't have a final design or anything with the architect that we're gonna hire. So it depends. I don't know if people are gonna still want to hang on to that lot and see what the architect comes up with, or if we want to keep that off limits and maybe start the discussion about maybe trying to sell that lot, which also would help fund the project. So I think we even discussed it at one time, like putting one of those up for sale might, help fund the project. We're bringing some money. So with that, I will open it up for discussion as far as what does everybody think about the vacant lots. Trustee Sullivan's got her hand up. You go first.
I am not in favor of selling either of those lots. I believe that those lots it's very fortuitous that we even have those lots. I think if we do give them up, I'm sure a very gorgeous house would be built, but that means that those lots will not be available again for many, many years. I think the previous boards sometime built those lots, or I'm sorry, bought those lots, paid to have the homes removed. And that was very, a good plan, even if, I wasn't involved in it. And I think now that we're realizing situations like COVID, it's even more important to have access to outside space that we might in the future need to use in situations like this. And secondly, we might need to use one of them for parking and the other one for outside space. We're very lucky that St. John's allows us to overflow. And And number one allows us to, and number two doesn't charge us, but that's at any time that could stop. So for all of those reasons, I am not in a position to consider selling one or both of those lots.
Secretary Swistak.
I agree with Trustee Sullivan. I remember her mentioning at a previous meeting about how, you know, if we were to sell them now, we wouldn't have the opportunity to repurchase them again. She said, I think she said within our lifetimes, I think is what the statement was that you had made before. And I really think, especially the point that we're at right now with looking at this renovation and potential expansion, we need to keep both properties until we know, you know, for sure what we're doing. And even seeing some of the different ideas that the different architects provided us with last week, you know, seeing how some of them did use it. One is some green space or some parking, and I think we need to have those at our disposal now as we're going through this process. So I'm not in favor of trying to sell either one of them.
Vice President Bartelli.
I am total agreement with Trustee Sullivan and Trustee Swistak. I mirror their comments. I do think we should keep them at least until we get more into the design phase. I agree that I like some of the ideas that the architects provided, not to say that we're going to go along with those, but it opened up ideas that frankly I hadn't even thought of. So I think it behooves us to hang on to those lots at this time. Thank you.
Trustee Larson.
Yeah, I think we should hang on to them at this point. The one, I think maybe several of the different architects last week. I think several of the architects last week said that we might be able to use them for like trailers and the construction equipment and, you know, free up space in the parking lot. So until we're further down and see what's going on, yeah, I think, no.
Trustee Duffy. Yep.
So I assume, President Hummel, your question is really more, it's all this is dependent upon, of course, the design that comes. So I'm not gonna make any decisions based upon, because it's all dependent upon that. The question is, what happens if a design comes that we agree upon that does not utilize one or both of these additional properties, and what do we want to do with it then? I mean, I'm open for it because the only thing that I don't have to go off of is a master plan of what is our plan for these two properties. And I don't like an open-ended view of it, which is we may not do anything with it for the next 10, 15, 20, so many years, right? And that is additional costs, or that is just property sitting there. And if we're not, so all I would ask is if we do decide to keep both of them, and we're not going to use them in the renovation for like a permanent thing, like a parking lot or park, whatever, anything like that, then it's incumbent upon us as a board to kind of have a conversation about what those properties are to us. Because I understand, I get the value. I think Trustee Sullivan's point is very well taken, which is you sell them, they're not coming back to you right away. And so there, you want to make sure if you are going to sell it, you have a good reason to do it. And if you are going to keep them, at least have some reasons to keep them. I think that often what is confusing sometimes to when people do ask us about what these properties are, and to me as a board member, is we don't have any defined use for them outside of the fact that we own them. And I think that is something that we need to work on, is defining what are we going to do with it if we're not going to use it. We wind up not using it as part of the renovation.
So just so I'll come back to you, Mark, in a second. So just to piggyback on Trustee Duffy's comments, like the Kingston, here's my thought process. On the Kingston Avenue property, I would keep that. It's something we could possibly use in this renovation, or like Trustee Duffy's mentioned, and it's been brought up in the past as well, as maybe some type of reasonable open space or collaboration with the Park District. The Front Street property, because of the topography, that's going to be, even if we utilize that in this renovation, which I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not really in favor of doing that, using that lot for the renovation. It's going to be a hard sell on me. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but it's going to be a tough sell for me. But because of the topography, it's going to take some. It's going to be pretty expensive to grade that out. And I remember that being told to us years ago. The other thought I had too is because right now I guess the real estate market is pretty hot right now. So it's the reason I wanted to maybe get this discussion going is because we may be able to get it's not going to happen overnight, but of the upcoming months is as long as the market holds true here for a while, we could probably get top dollar for that lot. If we wait whatever a year or two or three, the market could plummet again, and then we could sell it still, but we may not get. It could cost us tens of thousands of dollars. So I don't think it would cost us hundreds, but some tens of thousands of dollars. So this is part of the reason I just wanted to get the discussion going on it. But it looks like everybody wants. I haven't heard from Treasurer Norton yet, but it does sound like a lot of people want to at least wait and hold for it right now on both lots. So that was my.
Could we revisit it in 3 or 4 months?
Sure, we could revisit it if everybody wants to go that route after we get through the design. Vice President Bartelli, I'm going to hold off on you and just see if Treasurer Norton has any comments, and I'll come back to you, Vice President Bartelli.
I'm not going to be a contrarian here. Not everyone's opinion was identical, but we're all saying, wait, it's too early to tell, and we're open to all possibilities still.
Sounds good. Vice President Bartelli.
I would add the same thing. I agree with Trustee Duffy. It is dependent on our designs. We don't have a master plan yet. We will. We'll wait until that happens. I don't like an open-ended plan either. I don't think it will be open-ended for a very long time. We will have a plan. And when we do have all of those things, we'll have another conversation. I was under the impression the discussion tonight was preliminary. As of now, no decisions made. We're just sharing our general opinions as for right now and until we get further into the process.
Yep, but just the discussion. Yep. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Yeah, it's just a discussion. It's not an action item.
Thank you.
Any other trustees or okay? Director Weinstein, anything to add? All righty, so we will hold off on that at least for a while. Next item on the agenda is we have to accept the annual audit. Can I have a motion for accepting the library audit?
I think Treasurer Norton should make this motion.
I am trying to keep a certain feline off camera, but sure, Liz, I'll do it.
Okay.
Anyway, so I, Treasurer Norton, make a motion to approve the annual audit report.
This is Sullivan, I'll second.
All righty. Any questions or comment on this agenda item? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Jenny Norton.
Aye.
Liz Sullivan.
Aye.
Emily Swistat.
Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Aye.
Thomas Duffy.
Aye.
Karen Larson.
Aye.
Thomas Hummel.
Aye, motion passes. Next item on the agenda is 9C, approved resolution 20-04, resolution to determine estimate of funds. We have a motion, and then I'll have the director explain that item.
Trustee Duffy, I move to approve resolution 20-04, resolution to determine estimate of funds.
Motion to second.
Treasurer Norton, I second.
Ready. Director Weinstein.
Okay, I'm going to provide an explanation. This particular resolution, it always causes a bit of confusion, including with myself, because I've called the attorney to make sure that the dates on this resolution are actually the dates that need to be on there. So I'm going to explain what the resolution is. This resolution informs the public that the library will not levy 5% higher than last year's levy for the upcoming. So the $4,185,000 and some dollars is a not to exceed number based on last year's levy request of $3,946,000. So if we were going to levy higher than 5%, the library would have to obviously comply with TITA, but we'd have to publish this in the newspaper. We'd also have to have a public hearing. So the confusing part are the dates. So the dates noted in this resolution, they read odd. In that it states the levy is for fiscal year 2021, but the year is actually referring to the ordinance, not the monies that we'll receive. So it refers to the board passing the ordinance in 2021. So when the resolution or ordinances refer to 2021, it means it's the document, not the monies coming in. So next month, we'll pass the levy in fiscal year 2021, but the taxes will be coming in 21-22. So it's the way it's worded that's confusing, but the way it's worded is per our attorney, and it's also by statute. It has to read that way. Does that help?
Any questions or comments from any of the trustees? Alrighty, roll call, please.
Thomas Duffy,
Aye.
Jenny Norton,
Stick with it for a second.
Liz Sullivan,
Aye.
Emily Swistak,
Aye.
Marjorie Martelli,
Aye.
Karen Larson,
I,
Yeah, just
Thomas Hummel.
aye. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is full determination of whether the library shall be closed on election day. So can I have a motion and then we'll discuss?
This is Trustee Duffy, so I think I'm going to say I move to approve. Is that correct? Because it sounds a little weird as I say this. I move to approve November 3rd, 2020 election day closing.
That works.
That I know it's a little bit of a discussion versus actually a. Okay, I'm going to stick with what I just said there and put the phone down.
Okay, motion by Duffy. Is there a second? Trustee Russell seconds. All right, Director Weinstein, why don't you please explain this one?
Yeah, so late last Friday, a legal opinion was issued regarding the legislation to have public agencies closed on November 3rd, which is election day. And in summary, the decision generally gave each municipality the discretion to determine if the agency should remain open or be closed on election day. And I did confer with our attorney on all this, and he recommended that the board take a vote on this. Many libraries and other agencies are going through what we're going through and making their own choices about staying open or closed. And I did send the board a list of mostly libraries, but some other agencies in town that are either staying open or remaining closed. I will say that just from my own perspective, there's two ways of looking at this. The spirit of the legislation, I'd say, is to provide all citizens the ability to vote and to celebrate this day as a holiday. And on the flip side of it, as a information hub, as a public library, being open for those who may want to access information or follow information on election day is also something to consider. So just two things to weigh there in and deciding on whether to be closed or open on this day.
Okay, so discussion is if trustees want to keep the library open that day or close it that day. And just for the Park District is open that day, I believe you had on your email.
Yes, I mean, that's,
Yeah.
unless I heard wrong on the phone call.
And then the village is open as well.
Yes.
The fire district obviously doesn't close ever. So, and I don't know about the school district. Are they closed, do you know? 202 and 203? I don't know if that was on the list.
I'm not sure.
So,
I think it's
I'm sorry.
polling
Trustee Duff. I'm sorry. Trustee what?
Sorry, I think it depends if the school is a polling spot location, then that's, I think, driving it.
Okay.
There's no student attendance in 203 on election day. A lot of schools are polling places, but there is no student attendance on November 3rd.
Vice President Bartelli, I think I saw your hand too.
Oh, you mentioned a Park District. That is, in my neighborhood, that is the polling place, so it is open.
Correct.
And I believe the programs are running also on that day.
So here's my thoughts. I know that vote by mail, I don't know the exact number, but I know it's a record high. I want to say it's roughly a third of the votes are going to be cast vote by mail in DuPage County. I know they broke the record on Monday for early voting in DuPage County, and I don't think it's let up too much yesterday and today. So I don't know what percentage we'll wind up with before election day, but it's going to be a record high as far as votes already cast prior to election day. In fact, in my opinion, election day is almost it's not even election day anymore. It's almost the deadline to vote is what it basically is now. On a personal note, I wish they would have had election day as a holiday years ago, even before vote by mail and early voting, because I've been saying for years it should be a day off so everybody could vote, no excuse. But that's beside the point. But my thought would be to leave the library open. I know when I was talking to Director Weinstein, I don't know if you had it in your email or not too, but I know when we talked, she mentioned about, the library is a place to get information. So of course, believe it or not, for some last minute voters, they may want to research candidates, especially at the local level. I mean, I don't know how many people do that still, but I mean, there's an option. Second thing, in my opinion, is, the library was closed for a while there. So I don't want to close it again. And by law, I think everybody has to get like an hour or two off to vote. Unless it's just my company policy, but I'm pretty sure it's a state law. So, I mean, any of our library employees, if they wait to vote on election day, they can still go and vote. They'll be allowed time to vote that day. So, my opinion is to keep the library open on November 3rd. So I don't know where other trustees are. If anybody else wants to wave their hand and chime in on this. Trustee Duffy.
I agree, President Hummel. I think the uniqueness of how the library serves as a resource for the community, having it open, even if to me means one more person votes because they get in here, checked, etc., is good for me. As long as, again, that the staff have the ability to go and vote if they need to on the day of, I'm comfortable with it.
Any other trustees with a comment? Trustee Sullivan.
Tatiana, do you know if the library stays open, does it present a hardship to any employee, to your knowledge, about voting?
To my knowledge, I have not been apprised of any hardships at this point.
All right.
And if I were, I would make an accommodation for that staff.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, so the motion was to close it, correct? Chris, okay, so motion was to close. So if you vote yes, you're voting to close the library on election day. A vote no is to keep it open. So no keeps it open, yes closes it. There's no other discussion. Roll call, please.
Thomas Duffy,
No.
Karen Larson,
No.
Emily Swistak,
No.
Marjorie Bartelli,
No,
Jenny Norton.
No.
Liz Sullivan,
No.
Thomas Hummel.
No. Motion fails, 7-0. All righty, thank you. Next item on the agenda is opportunity for trustee comments. We'll just go alphabetical. You know, my Vice President Bartelli, unless you want me to go the other way.
just to reiterate, once again, while the meetings last week were time consuming, I really appreciated them, learned a lot. Thanks to the staff and CCS for organizing. Beneficial to hear that information. Again, good job on the quarterly reports. Very much appreciated. I wanted to share that I thought the library visits that the trustees made were very helpful and informative. And I think we have a very good start to our communications plan. That's great. We did good work tonight. And last but not least, I'd like to thank President Hummel for delivering our packets.
Hey.
Those that don't come in to the library. Very much appreciated. Thank you. That's
I feel like I can work for Amazon pretty soon.
you're blushing.
Thank you. Trustee Duffy.
I mean, I hope that you're walking those packets from your house to everyone else's house. So, that's
We practice for Amazon.
You know, all I gotta say, I'll echo Vice President Bartelli. We've spent a lot of time staring at each other's face the last week and a half. I very much enjoyed the presentations and the discussion. My only regret is not buying my new office chair until yesterday. Would have come in handy last week on my body, but I definitely enjoyed it. So thank you.
Actually, just a quick question for trustees. How was the presentation like from like your perspective online? Were you able to follow it pretty good? I was just curious. Okay.
Yep.
Pretty easy to follow, but I also, from the corporate perspective, I'm always on like this, so it's a little bit easier for me.
Trustee Larson.
Yeah, thanks Tatiana and Beth and everybody for all the hard work, getting everything together with Mark and for the meetings. I really enjoyed them. I enjoyed each and everyone's presentation that they gave us, you know, and getting to see some of the other stuff like Marjorie when they had gone to what was the one? Huntley, yeah. So I mean, it was really good. I think this is gonna be fun.
All righty, Treasurer Norton.
Echoing what's been said, kudos to everyone for the recent efforts. They've been increasing in scope and intensity, and everyone collaborating well together and contributing a lot, staff and the board and third parties. So it's very good, all the due diligence that we're doing and moving at an appropriate pace. And I'm happy to be part of that. I do have one difficult subject that I do want to bring up, and that is in part of last week's special meetings, there was a public comment. And as part of that public comment, the board was asked a question. They were asked to respond non-verbally with a hand raised to mean yes, and not raising your hands, I guess, to mean no, and a conclusion was drawn at that point as to no hands were raised, and all were concluded to have meant that they said no. And I would just like to speak for myself and say, I totally appreciate all feedback. I've said it over and over. So I want feedback from the public, and whether it's positive or negative, I just want to keep hearing it. So I don't want to discourage that at all. And it takes a lot of gumption to participate in the public comment process. So I do not want to discourage that in any way. However, out of respect for the public comment forum, it's not meant to be a two-way street. And so my lack of any body language was intentional to mean a non-response and to mean respect for public comment being the opportunity for the visitor to speak and not for the board to respond. And so what I would say is, if you do have questions for the board, we have email addresses. We have a group email address as well. We are human beings and we do exist outside of the meetings. And so if you want to have another communication method, I mean, back in the olden days when we could all go out and have coffee, we could do that. I mean, we're all neighbors. We're all part of the same community. I really believe that there's tons of common ground to be reached. So before anyone jumps to any conclusions, certainly negative conclusions, please, just reach out to us and let's see if we can have a conversation. As far as the question is concerned, it was about, would you support a referendum if we were to issue debt? And all I want to say about that is, we are so far from making that decision. We are many critical decisions away from that. We haven't discussed the scope of the project. We only just recently settled on an architect. And so we've got a lot of additional decisions to make. I mean, only up until very recently, we were almost potentially heading a different location for the library. So you just don't know what's going to happen. So this is way too preliminary to even worry about, in my opinion. But what I will say about that is, even if we get past scope discussions and we get past what we have in terms of cash reserves and possibilities of fundraising and grants and selling of properties and things like that, and shifting and spend, all those things that would defray possible need to issue debt. If we did go down that road further, what I can say preliminarily, subject to plenty of discussion and potential change in opinion, is that I feel like the majority opinion of our stakeholders is paramount, and a referendum is consistent with getting a pulse on what the public wants. So that's my answer to that question at this point. But I'm so proud of the library and what we have done as a governing body. We are not the governing body that is really one that is looking at our financials and doing things that are contradictory to what would be helpful to the public. I'm saying that kind of in a weird way, but what I'm trying to say more directly is, the library is 4% of the tax bill. The library has lowered the levy 3 years in a row. We pride ourselves on being part of a group that is fiscally responsible and continuing to do so throughout this process. And that as we're talking about these major decisions, you have to keep in mind some money needs to be spent so that it won't be more costly down the road too. This is all part of a bigger picture of trying to do what is best financially and in all other ways for library stakeholders. So there's multiple accountants on this board. There's retirees on this board. We all have families. We're all homeowners. We're not immune to the plight of taxpayers, and certainly in this year and this season. I mean, so many of us are personally economically affected. I will say, speaking for myself, I have been. Our household has been. So please do not make any assumptions in the negative about how we plan to spend and what we are. I am very sensitive to all of the taxpayers' wants and needs, all of the patrons' wants and needs, all the staff's wants and needs, and we're going to do our darndest to please as many people as possible through this process. Thank you.
Very much. Trustee Sullivan.
Nothing at this time.
All righty, Secretary Swistat.
I just wanted to say again how much I'm continuing to enjoy the curbside pickup that the library is offering for materials. And I actually came into the library today to pick up some craft kits for youth services for my kids. So I'm excited to bring those home for them. And I wanted to add that last week, I think it might have been Friday, I came to do curbside pickup for the adult/teen craft kit. And as I was getting my kit, so was another patient at the same time. And so we were both out of our cars, masked, picking up our bags. And I said, it's so nice that, she brought out 2 bags at the same time because we didn't have to both call. And the other patient said, yeah, she said, I love this service. It's so exciting to see. Every week I come and I get a new craft to take home, and I get so excited every week to see what I'm gonna make. And I thought, she has no idea who I am, and she's just sharing this with me. And it was so nice to see that excitement from another patron about the services that the library is offering. So I just wanted to say again, thank you so much for finding other ways to provide the programming and services that we've been doing for so long. And I'm just really excited to see how that continues to evolve over time. So thank you for continuing that.
Thank you. Then my turn. So actually, I just want to, with the curbside pickup, I think you said it's actually gone down the last month a little bit. Is that because?
We've been open.
Because we're open, it's not, so it's just that, okay. And then going back to Treasurer Norton's comment about the public comment, actually, I probably owe the board a little bit of an apology. I actually reviewed our public comment policy, and next time we have somebody to public comment, I'll probably read at least a portion of the policy out, because they're not really supposed to address individual trustees or either the board as a whole or the chair of the board. So I'll read the public policy next time, public comment policy next time, or at least a portion of it that's relevant. The other thing I had, I think it's been alluded to also, is that we've had a lot of meetings lately. We had a finance committee meeting 2 weeks ago. We had 2 very long but very productive meetings for the architect interviews and presentations. We have our meeting tonight, and then we also have upcoming personal policy meeting here in a couple of weeks, or maybe a few weeks, and then we'll have another meeting, regular meeting here in a month, and then we'll probably have another finance committee meeting at some point mid to late November. So, these meetings take up a lot of our time, and I want to, it takes a lot more for the staff. Not only do they have to be present for the meeting, they're the ones that do all the work to prepare for those meetings for us. So I'm just going to reiterate, I'm not trying to stop any emails or stop at any questions, but I do ask trustees to please be respectful of staff time, and quite frankly, with some of your fellow trustee time, with emailing. And I'm not saying stop if you have a question, but just please be very respectful of their time, and just as far as just let's be careful with being respectful of their time. That's all I'll say. With that, last item is, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
Trustee Larson beat you. So do you want a second?
Bummer. I'll second it.
Okay, Trustee Sullivan with the second. Any comments or discussion on this? Roll call, please.
Karen Larson,
Aye.
Liz Sullivan,
Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli,
Aye.
Thomas Duffy,
Aye.
Jenny Norton,
Aye.
Emily Swissack,
She said aye. She said aye.
Thomas Hummel.
All right. We are adjourned at 8:44. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Aye.